इस ऐतिहासिक अवसर पर उपस्थित भारत आज दुनिया के उन देशों में है
Will India be able to maintain its strategic advantage over China? This is not something that we hear about every day in the news, but it's definitely worth taking a closer look at. After all, India is one of the most populous countries in the world, and it's also one of the fastest growing economies. In this video, we'll discuss the Chinese military strategy and how India is countering it, and also China's approach to the India-China economic and military war. So sit back, relax, and enjoy learning about the military strategies of India with us. Starting off with the China-India bilateral relations, for thousands of years that have been documented, India and China have had harmonious ties. However, after the Chinese Communist Party won the Chinese Civil War in 1949, and particularly when the People's Republic of China annexed Tibet, these relations have been less than amicable. While regular border conflicts and economic nationalism in both countries are a key topic of tension, the two countries have endeavored to cooperate economically. The Sino-Indian War of 1962, the border confrontations in Nathula and Chola in 1967, and the 1987 Sundarong-Chu standoff were all three military incidents that resulted from boundary disputes between China and India in today's relations. But both nations effectively restored their diplomatic and commercial relations in the late 1980s. China has been India's top commercial partner since 2008, and the two nations have also strengthened their military and strategic ties. Since 2013, border conflicts have resurfaced and taken center stage in the bilateral ties between the two nations. Early in 2018, a standoff between the two militaries occurred at the Doklam Plateau near the contentious boundary between Bhutan and China. Armed standoffs and clashes have intensified along the whole Sino-Indian border since the summer of 2020 in a number of different areas. While the real issue started when China in 2013 extended its Belt and Road Initiative, which resulted in three military confrontations and large building projects in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and the Maldives. Before discussing India's strategic plans, let's quickly review the tactics for China. It's becoming obvious that China's ambitious One Belt, One Road, or Belt and Road Initiative might radically alter the geoeconomics and geopolitics of the whole Eurasian area and beyond, by connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe through a network of different transportation routes. These changes have significant ramifications for India. Four of the planned 6 international corridors, Hong Kong Trade Development Council 2018, National Development Reform Commission 2015, notably the new Eurasia Land Bridge, China Central Asia-West Asia Economic Corridor, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and Bangladesh-China-India-Myanmar Economic Cooperation directly influence India's economic and geopolitical ties with these areas. In order to strategically surround India, China first invested enormous sums of money in the construction of oil refineries, high-speed cables, railway lines, and even gas pipelines in addition to Belt and Road initiatives in Myanmar, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. There's no doubt to the fact that China is taking advantage of economic crises going on in these states to improve its trade and trap India. Moreover, China is essentially creating its own trade route in order to become an economic powerhouse, developing a highly important railway connection from London to China and another railway line from China to Iran through Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan before concluding in Tehran, Iran. Given what we've discussed thus far, China intends to encircle its adversaries, including India, in order to eventually surpass the United States economically and militarily. However, given what China is currently doing, India is obviously not a disciple of Jesus to remain silent and allow China to gain strength. So the question is, what exactly is India doing to counter China? Alfred There, a historian, once stated, "Whoever conquers the Indian Ocean will dominate the entire of Asia." What exactly makes the Indian Ocean so important, and why does China want to have most of it to itself? On the global map, the Indian Ocean region is made up of 28 different nations. These nations, which span 3 continents and account for 17.5% of the world's geographical area, are among the 21 members of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, which also includes powerful countries like Australia, Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, Kenya, Malaysia, Oman, South Africa, Singapore, South Lanka, Yemen, the UAE, and Thailand. The remaining 7 nations, Brunei, Cambodia, the Maldives, Myanmar, Pakistan, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam, are not a part of this organization. This area is currently home to about 35% of the world's population, or over 2.6 billion people. All of these countries are the fastest growing around the world. Moreover, the Indian Ocean connects the international economy in the North Atlantic to the Asia-Pacific region. making it one of the most strategically important areas in the globe. It also serves as a key maritime route that connects the Middle East, Africa, and East Asia with both Europe and America. What is really astounding about the Indian Ocean is that only 3 small crossings at the Strait of Malacca account for 80% of the world's marine oil commerce. The strategic importance of the Indian Ocean hasn't changed, despite the fact that it may be challenging for one country to rule the whole region now in the same manner that the British, French, or Portuguese empires did during the colonial era. In reality, following a period of no significant great power conflict in the region, the emergence of the Indo-Pacific, the now geopolitical framework that incorporates both the Indian and Pacific Oceans, has brought the Indian Ocean back into the limelight. The capacity to maintain a military presence close to the important choke points connecting its commerce routes is at the center of the geopolitical conflict in the Indian Ocean. In times of peace and conflict, having such a presence affords nations the ability to safeguard and interfere with these crucial maritime routes, known in naval parlance as sea lines of communications protection and S-lock interdiction. The Mozambique Channel, the Bab el-Mandeb, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Hormuz, the Malacca Straits, the Sunda Strait, and the Lombok Strait. These points are what we refer to as choke points, meaning that if you block them, a significant portion of global trade will halt. The first choke point is the Malacca Strait, which connects Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific to the Indian Ocean via Malaysia, Singapore, and the Indonesian island of Sumatra. The sole marine route linking the Persian Gulf to the larger Indian Ocean is the Strait of Hormuz, which is the second. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which connects the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean, runs between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula and Eritrea and Djibouti in the Horn of Africa. The Mozambique Channel, a vital route for commodities passing through the Cape of Good Hope on their way to the Middle East and Asia, connects Madagascar and Mozambique. By the way, if you're not subscribed to the BizStudied YouTube channel, you need to subscribe before the end of 2022. We want to get 50,000 subscribers, and please subscribe so we hit our goal and reach many more people. The next video will be even better, so please subscribe and thank you so much. Back to the video. In order to gain control over the Strait of Hormuz, China has placed the Gwadar port in Pakistan on a 40-year lease and has its own infrastructure and railway connections. China has also very obviously invaded the region extremely near all these choke points. To give Iran control over the Suez Canal, the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb in order to construct its naval base and make use of the Strait of Malacca, Sunda Strait, and the Lombok Strait, China has trapped Djibouti. If you go through the facts and figures, you'll see that China has formed a strategic relationship with Indonesia to construct its infrastructure projects. And if you examine Chinese connections in detail, you'll discover that China has already developed tight ties with the Mozambique administration and has taken control of the Salam port in Tanzania. In other words, if you have control over these, you can halt global trade in a matter of minutes. Other than these trade routes, the Indian Ocean has a lot more to offer. It contains 16.8% of the entire world's reserves and 27.9% of natural gas reservoirs. The whole situation favors China, but of course, India is no saint and has also played its card. To understand this, let's look at the list of strategic bases India has established with partner nations, as well as the various trade agreements that India has signed. So basically what India has decided to follow is the necklace of diamonds strategy. Lalit Mansingh, a former foreign secretary for India, used the phrase necklace of diamonds for the first time when he discussed India's regional strategic priorities in August of 2011. He claimed that India is doing everything it's supposed to do in terms of protecting its interests. To the doctrine of the string of pearls, India has its own doctrine, the necklace of diamonds. Just as the Chinese are building port facilities, we are tying up naval cooperation with almost all the major powers of the Indian Ocean region. So now that you know where this strategy came from, let's quickly understand how it works for India. China has a strategic placement at Gwadar and Djibouti for this, and India has very cleverly placed its base over here in Oman, where it has the Dakhun port. The Dakhun port is where India's important crude imports flow from the Persian Gulf. This place is strategically located in the southeastern seaboard of Oman and is overlooking both the Arabian. Due to India's relationship with Oman, it has military access to this port, which makes it an excellent defensive position. The Indo-Vietnam diamond follows, and to cut a long tale short, India has always had a wonderful connection. India struck a comprehensive strategic relationship with Vietnam in 2016 and provided some of the country's most vital defense equipment to them. India's next major cooperation is with Japan, where on September 9, 2020, India and Japan signed a document known as the Acquisition and Cross-Servicing, an agreement allowing the armies of the two nations to trade goods and services on a reciprocal basis would allow Japan and India to utilize each other's support as needed for their respective strategic objectives. The Best part is that Japan is very close to China, which means in case of any military war, they can easily fight back. And then there comes Mongolia, with which also the Indian government shares quite a significant bond. The Strait of Malacca is next, and the two choke points immediately next to it are where the Changi naval base lies. In 2018, Modi signed a deal with the Singaporean government by which the Indian Navy now has direct access to Singaporean territory while at sea. The Indian Navy can refuel and rearm its ships through the South China Sea, which is followed by the Sabang port in Indonesia, and again in 2018 when India gained military access to Sabang port, which is situated directly at the entrance of the Malacca Strait, giving us theoretical control over the Strait of Malacca. Moreover, the Strait of Malacca serves as the conduit for 70% of China's energy imports and 60% of its trade. Therefore, closing it would have the same effect as closing the whole Chinese economy. And at last comes Iran, which is also part of China's BRI. Last but not least, there is the Chabahar port in Iran, which is also a part of the Chinese BR initiative. A railway line connects China to Iran via Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan before terminating in Tehran, Iran. This is where India very deftly recognized the significance of Iran. In fact, it did so as early as 2015, when Iran was subject to crippling economic sanctions, and as a diplomatic sanction, India agreed to build a deep water port in Chabar on the Gulf of Oman in order to help Iran, which was subject to crippling economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. As part of this agreement, a $500 million contract was signed to build the port and related infrastructure. Observing all these points will make you realize that India surrounded all of China's main strategic points already. Although ties with all of these nations are not as good as they might want, countering the Chinese in the event of a military war today is a very important step to ensure that the tiger is not set to absolutely. That's all for today, folks. I hope this video cleared India's situation and gave you a better understanding of the importance of the Indian Ocean. Who do you think is doing a better job of containing the other supremacy in the Indian Ocean? Do let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to get notified about our future videos. Thanks for watching.